I love finale nights.
Mr. Jeff.
I want it more than $1 million, Jeff. I want it more than $1 million.
It comes down to this.
God!
Here's Marianne!
It is Wednesday, May 25th, 2022, and we just finished watching the 3-hour finale of Survivor 42 here very late. It comes down to this, guys.
It comes down to this.
It just comes down to this. I'm Dave Mader, joined with my brother Jeff Mader and co-host Jaemeel Robinson, streaming here live on Super Mader Brothers Podcasting. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch as we cover this 13th episode, this final episode of Survivor 42. The end of the pandemic Survivor seasons, as we've been, as we did 41 and 42, as we see Marianne win this tonight, the second Canadian winner ever, and my draft pick. If I might just point it out there as well. We all said it couldn't be her. Even I was saying it was not going to be her tonight. As she wins 7-1, guys, in this final tribal over Mike. But we're going to break it down. There was a lot that happened in this episode because we started the hour or the episode with 5 people. We lost Lindsay along the way, and then finally Jonathan goes down in the fire making challenge to Mike before we get down to this final 3 of Romeo, Mike, and Marianne. But guys, are you satisfied with this season? Jeff?
No. I feel like this was one of the worst strategic seasons of Survivor I've seen in a long time. I think the fact that they got this whole cast got to the end and really just focused on one vote, which was the Omar vote, really, to give Marianne this win. I don't really like, not that she actually probably play the most strategic game and probably did deserve to get the votes, but I didn't like this season as far as like how it went strategically, especially with players like Mike, Jonathan, Romeo, even Lindsay. I thought like she was giving herself too much credit on how good a player she was. I was like, you were okay. Last season was better for strategic play, I felt like.
With the Erica win?
Just with like Sham and Rickard and those, I just felt like there was more strategic minds last season.
All right. Okay. Jeff's coming in saying this was sloppy. It seems a bit for him. Jaemeel, 3 hours. Where are you sitting now after having just absorbed all this?
I might be coming in a little too low.
Well, it's okay.
It's okay to feel sad.
I felt, look, when Lindsay was voted out, I lost a lot of interest in the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because particularly I felt that Lindsay should win, even though I was gunning for her. It was that I felt like I wouldn't have an ending that I felt was strong enough to kind of make up for the rest of the season, right? And all I was felt with was 2 goats, Marianne, who had practically maybe 1 or 2 good moves, and Mike, who was
steady,
right?
but not great.
Like
I thought Romeo was the other goat, but
no, it was Jonathan and Romeo were the 2 goats.
Yeah, Jonathan wouldn't have gotten any votes had he beat Mike. I don't think. I think it probably would have been a unanimous vote unless Mike voted for him.
I agree 100%. There was no way. Look how many questions Jonathan got in the question and answer portion, like when it was like the reunion part, and then when he did speak up, Jeff was like, "Shut your mouth." Right? Highest speaking. Let him talk.
Yeah, there was definitely some like I kind of wanted to see Jonathan just get to the end just so I could see person after person like kind of just roast him rather than Mike. Whoever was sitting in that final chair between Mike and Jonathan was getting kind of roasted a little bit. Either way, I felt like, guys, and I know they said this the opposite in the reunion. I felt like half that jury came in knowing they were voting for Marianne.
I was actually like, I'm happy I won the draft, guys. I'm happy Marianne won this, but quite frankly, I was really surprised that Mike didn't win this at the end, because I thought that really, like, I was really surprised because I didn't really understand like what they were. I understood that Mike really botched a lot of the jury questions. I get that part, but coming in, I thought he was like the automatic favorite. Everyone liked Mike. He seemed to get along with everybody. He, he was Mr. Congeniality in some ways. Yeah, sure. He kind of backstabbed a few people. He played emotionally at times. And maybe he pushed people around a little bit. And maybe I think his closeness to Jonathan maybe was his biggest detriment in maybe some of the jurors' minds. But I was like, I gotta think that, like, just knowing the past history of juries, that who do they want to represent their season? I thought that Mike was the more likely candidate. I think Romeo was kind of like, no way this guy is going to do well, because he just kind of hung around. He was the cockroach. I think that was Omer's kind of reference to Romeo, and I think that was kind of fitting, that he kind of just hung on for as long as he could. He did win this Samotion challenge, partly because I think Mike in particular just goes out so early when he's just got the one ball. He went out on the one ball, guys. And then, but
that's the same thing with Deshaun with Do or Die, right?
Right.
Like, you don't get set up properly, and then all of a sudden you slip on a banana peel at the beginning of the competition, which is what Mike did.
Yeah. I just thought Mike was the more obvious choice. Like, I thought, like, I think that they're going to be most of the jury. I thought Marianne might get a couple votes. I thought she'd get 2 votes tops. I thought she would get the Tory vote, and I thought that she could probably persuade a couple others, maybe Omer, or maybe. But I didn't think Jonathan would vote for who was the Mike vote. They said there was one vote for Mike.
I imagine it was Jonathan. Jonathan clearly detested Marianne. You could see it on his face throughout the questions, and I think it was more. Even it was that, and I don't think he liked her, but I think he was not a fan of the whole jury. I think kind of gravitated toward Marianne, and I think that bothered Jonathan either way. Like, they, a 7-1 vote, like everyone voted for her, and I don't think she played a unanimously awesome, clear winner type to me. Erica had last season too, same thing. I was just like, I feel like both seasons, guys. They voted for the person they liked more, and they felt kind of played a little bit strategically.
Well,
and like, it was likability was huge at the end of 26 days, whereas maybe it's different after 39 days. Maybe you kind of have a different viewpoint.
Almost 2 more weeks, right? So yeah. I don't know.
Well, I just feel that at least, okay, a couple things. One, we actually got to see Marianne do stuff which Erica didn't. So this automatically makes her technically a better winner than Erica, right? And that's not necessarily Erica's fault. She wasn't in control of the edit, but we at least we can check the work to see Marianne winning, where Erica just all of a sudden she's just there, right? Kind of deal.
Let's not forget that she.
I smashed the hourglass and I changed the course of history.
Let's never forget.
Oh, yes. So if Rox was at the end, he would have won just because he did that. Like,
maybe, Jaemeel.
Second thing. Mike isn't a group talker. He is a one-on-one speaker. He speaks to people individually, and he focuses all of his attention on that one person. When you get him in a group, like every single conversation he had in a group, when he was with the 5 Alliance, Andrea was there. Everyone saw through it. Omer saw through it. He's not able to communicate in a group. Marianne, at the very least, is consistent in how she converses, and people have gotten used to it. We might look at it and say, this is strange, but like when you're hearing her talk, she at least makes sense in terms of her thing. You feel that she has actually thought about what people are going to ask her, and she had her answers set up, and she had that ace in the hole with the immunity idol. Mike didn't even he didn't properly detail his strategic moves. It was more the criticism from the jury about his moves. And that's not a winning strategy when you're being criticized about what you've done, as opposed to telling people what you did.
I'm a burger kind of guy.
You know, it's just how that's Mike. And then Marianne, yeah.
Go from a caterpillar to a butterfly.
That was kind of her story. I think when she pulled out that idol, she had that hidden immunity idol that she didn't tell anyone about, that she could have played for herself just for insurance purposes at that final 4 or 5, right? That it came down to. She doesn't. She said she was considering playing it on Lindsay. And I'm just watching this episode tonight, you know, where she's like, you really want to sit next to Lindsay at the end, Marianne? Like she wants
to get rid of Jonathan.
But he's you can beat Jonathan easier.
But maybe not in the final challenge. Maybe you end up making fire. Like there's a good chance tonight, Dave, that if Mike or Jonathan won that final 4 challenge, Marianne would have had to make fire, and then she might not have made it into the final 3. You know,
but once you make it into the final 3, you got to win.
True, but like Lindsay and Romeo, I think most likely we're going to take Marianne to the end. So it kind of like I see what Jameel's saying, because I think it made sense for her to want to get rid of Jonathan. I expected her to do it, but the thing is, if she sat beside Lindsay, she was going to lose, and she said that tonight. And she was right. There's a bunch of things Marianne said tonight. I was like, you're spot on. You're 100% right there, Marianne. And then you know the old adage like that happens in Survivor all the time. It's like, oh, I was pretending to be dumb, or I was pretending to kind of. She actually, I think, like it was her personality, but she kind of acted dumb and acted like a kid, like even more so than I think she is.
She played it up more, you mean?
She played it up, and I think by the time she got to the end, she was able to articulate herself way better than the other two, and that's
well, what about Romeo?
Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo?
Romeo sucked, like straight up, like Pow level suck.
I know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just get Devin out. It's all good.
I felt like, yeah, Jaemeel, go ahead. Because
let me just quickly, just before we go into that, if Jonathan won that final immunity,
yeah,
I would so 100% see him going, me and Mike are going to fight it to the end, and Romeo and Marianne, you two are going to do fire, because I don't feel I feel like you have to prove that you deserve to be in the fight. He would be egotistical to say something like that. So, like, absolutely, I can understand why one wouldn't want Jonathan making that decision at all.
Right. Well, even before that, right, where Mike and Jonathan had that pasta reward, right? Because Mike wins that final 5 immunity, even though Lindsay won that advantage early on in the episode where they had to solve the word puzzles.
One mistake,
right?
One mistake.
You know, one mistake, but they all had to untie 6 knots, and she had to untie only 1. And I was like, "There's no way Lindsay's gonna lose this challenge." Like, I thought this was like a complete upset here with Mike winning this, you know, and coming back to it because he's like 57 years old, and she's been so dominant in challenges, and this was pretty physical, but and she's good at puzzles too. Like where the rest of them were all sitting around trying to figure out that word puzzle, the other 5 together. And they couldn't even figure it out, like comparatively. So I was like, Lindsay,
her puzzle fell apart. And she had to hold it together. Those precious moments, that was it. That was the difference.
Yeah, but like even like she only kind of just tied Jonathan to even start the puzzle, right? Mike got there a few moments later, and Romeo, he was even ahead of Marianne, and
Jonathan gave up. Such a dick. Oh.
I almost thought he was like sitting by, was saying like, well, it's in my best interest to see Mike win this than Lindsay. So I thought I almost felt like, they didn't show this in the edit, but I even wonder if he was sitting there helping Mike or even giving him tips on how to win his puzzle, or Jonathan was just completely clueless on how to solve that puzzle.
Lindsay's downfall for me was just how much she was fixated on Jonathan and how much she didn't like him. That was her downfall in the game for me, because she shouldn't have been so focused on that. You know,
she should have used her idol to save Omar.
Yeah, she should have done that. Like, isn't it interesting? The person that won the immunity challenge, like last week, it was Lindsay, and she had the amulet, didn't play it. Then Mike wins the immunity. He has an idol, plays it on Marianne, who has an idol. Like people were getting saved even though they were already safe, like over and over in the end game, which was so weird, you know. And I think this is what happens when there's too many idols and
advantages.
They save them, they don't use them. That's what happens.
Well, even coming out of like the previous tribal, how we start off this episode, because who got voted out last? It was Omar, right?
Prior to the final four,
Or
Final
the final five. The final five.
it was Omar. Yeah.
Omar, right? And so, like, just like at the beginning of the episode, where they have to go to the whole new beach here in the beginning of the episode, that they haven't been. It's not been a camp for any of the three previous tribes or the merged tribe. It's a completely different one, and just sitting around the fire, and then she, Lindsay was trying to like backpedal with Omar. He duped me and whatever, and and she's like, Jonathan, I thought you were in my alliance. And he's like, yeah, me too, but you voted against me, and whatever. There was all like this fallout. I thought she kind of looked dumb in a lot of those.
So dumb.
She looks dumb, but also Jonathan, being the big ass that he is, was like with this shit-eating grin. I'm like,
brutal.
how do you think? How are you endearing yourself to people at all? If she's gone next, she's just going to be talking about the jury, how big of a jerk you are. You're reinforcing her opinion. Like, there was no jury management with that dude. He was like, I've never seen such a one-sided ability of gameplay in a long time.
Yeah, well, you could argue that Romeo even should have brought Jonathan, not even put him in the fire making, and just brought him to the final three, right? Like, ultimately, like that was kind of Romeo.
Rox might have voted for.
What happens if it's Mike, Jonathan, and Romeo in the final three? Who wins?
I think Mike wins.
Mike wins.
Yes.
So Romeo, by default, moves up a spot because he ties for second.
I think Mike wins unanimously. I think maybe Romeo gets a vote, but like it's hard to like they. Just
I don't think Romeo would
Romeo.
get a vote. Well, would Marianne vote for?
Would
Marianne might vote for Romeo. I can see that.
Because she at least had open communication with him the entire time that he was there at the bottom. And I think she might appreciate and probably talk up what he's done, like throw him some softballs.
Right.
Jonathan would get eviscerated with that jury.
Yeah.
That jury,
Lindsay alone.
they would just be like, come on.
Yeah. If you look at this final five here, they're all kind of imperfect players. They all have flaws. They all had weaknesses. I think Lindsay was the strongest of these final five in a lot of respects. But in this 3-hour finale, at least up until when she gets like her torch gets snuffed, she looks very kind of like disorganized, way too fixated on Jonathan, trying to recover from this Omar thing. The fact that she could have saved Omar with her idol and didn't because she was worried about getting put back into the game. And so she never and she kind of has a little bit of a rebound because she's so good at solving that word puzzle and figuring out where the giant's toe was and getting that advantage in the next challenge. But it ultimately doesn't matter because Mike beats her anyway. And and then she's like she tried really hard to make a case to Mike there. But she's like, well, he kind of implied he might play his idol on me at one point, whereas he had promised to Marianne ultimately. And he also promised Jonathan too, over the pasta dinner, that he was going to save Jonathan, right? He's like, just tell me you were going to save me. He's like, oh yeah, man, I'll go tell you. And then he ultimately plays it for Marianne. I guess
she did a better job to help Marianne and force him to play for Marianne. Right? She should have said, hey, Marianne, you don't need it. Can you tell Mike and say, give it to Marianne, and then I'll work with him, right? Work on him. But her argument was, you need to stick to your word. So he's like, okay, I'll play it on Marianne. That was ultimately what the decision was.
Yeah, well, Mike, I think he was trying to go in with this whole I'm an honest guy and I never lied to anybody. The only one I lied to was Roxroy, and that really hurt me. But that was only because High kind of duped me 30 minutes before Tribal, and I didn't know what to do. And that was kind of what the story he wanted to go into the finals with.
Do you know what I think rubbed the jury the wrong way about Mike? And they showed it numerous times on the show, but it was the amount of times he said, hey, look at me in the eyes. I'm not voting you out tonight. And then he does, or he doesn't stop the vote out, or whatever, I think he did that a bunch, and I think it pissed people off. It kind of was what pissed people off about Tony, the amount of times he sweared on his grandmother or whatever he did,
But Tony owned up and said, really straightforward, is dude,
Yes.
straight up, this is how I had to play.
He
Yeah.
was like a suck.
He was
I
honest.
feel like a succubus.
And that's the thing is like, and it, like once they told Mike like, "Oh, we don't buy this integrity, whatever," that's when he lost because he didn't come into the tribal just being like, "Yeah, I lied, and yeah, I did this, and yeah, I was gonna do
He
whatever."
kind of did. He kind of did.
He
but
backtracked.
He backtracked.
backtracked.
He didn't start with it. He started with, I only had to lie to Rockstar. You just mentioned it, Dave. And I need to apologize to him for that. But everybody else, I was completely loyal.
Well, he's like, but I also had to lie a little bit. Of course, you have to lie a little bit in this game, but like not really. And
You said that midway through, Dave. Come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I thought he did pretty poorly on a lot of the jury questions. I think he sunk himself. Maybe he would have got a couple more votes. I think Marianne still wins here, but I was like, I think they're still going to vote for Mike because Mike's just more likable. I was wrong about how much Marianne was kind of liked and respected by the outside of Jonathan and Mike, who I don't think really cared for her that much. I think that even Drea, I thought was going to be a Mike vote. And then wasn't, obviously.
I think certain people really swayed that jury, and I think it was like Omar and Drea and
Lindsay, I think,
and High. Those four people, I think,
really. I would say Lindsay too.
Yeah, Lindsay for sure, but High just seemed like he was like basically leading the whole show. As far as like he had a lot to say. He was
Chanel had a lot to say for the first juror.
Oh my God, she shouldn't even been on the jury. It should have been a 7-person jury. It was like, who? I was like, I forgot all about.
Do you even know these people, Chanel? Like,
yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. It was an interesting. I thought it was an interesting thing because, like, I thought it was gonna be a runaway for Mike. Obviously, it wasn't. I was surprised, and because I think it was attachment to Jonathan. I think the fact that he was pretty forceful at times, that he kind of pushed people around on some votes, and I thought it was interesting too when Lindsay was like trying to do the whole guilt trip, which on Mike, right? And she did the same thing that we just said that he did too many times. Look at me, and she's like, look at me, Mike, look at me.
She did the same thing. Yeah, she tried to play Mike's game against Mike.
Yeah, and he was kind of not really sure what to do, and ultimately he throws his idol onto Marianne.
So dumb. Yeah. That's the thing. I think that's why Mike lost, guys, because I don't think he had any self-awareness of like how the other people viewed him in the game. And even though it was more open, it was kind of like muddled because like by the time he like when he for instance playing that idol on Marianne, like he had no clue Marianne had an idol. He had no like feeling of where the jury, him doing that, what kind of kudos he was going to get. Maybe he was just trying to, like, I could play for Jonathan, but I know Jonathan's safe anyway tonight anyway. It's going to be Lindsay. So why not play the idol on Marianne and get like a sort of jury?
Well, he's predicting really that Romeo, he must have known Romeo was going to vote Lindsay because that's what it came down to in that vote. Right?
No.
Romeo, not the most reliable.
Oh, no, it was Marianne. Marianne voted for Lindsay.
No, she did.
Yes, she did. Marianne voted for Lindsay. Check the tape. She did.
I think she even said it in at the end. She said I couldn't beat Lindsay. I had to vote her out.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
There was no way Lindsay was winning that. She was gone.
There was
because they didn't have to read all the votes. So yeah, I didn't realize it was. I thought it was a 3-2 vote, but it was a 4-1 vote.
Yeah.
There was no way Lindsay was going to go home that night unless Marianne wanted it to happen.
But Marianne, in the confessionals leading up to that tribal, was talking about how much she wanted to keep Lindsay around, thinking she could edge Lindsay out in the finals. I was like, "There's no way you're going to beat Lindsay in the finals." There's like, I could be mistaken because I was clearly wrong about Mike, but I just thought
I think
Lindsay
she might have beat. Dave, I think you're wrong about that. I think Marianne might have beat Lindsay. Because I think Lindsay, like a lot of these other players, are flawed at explaining their game, and kind of, I found Lindsay came across really bad in this episode. Like especially like before her vote out, like she was desperate. I get it. She was in a bad spot the whole episode because she lost the challenge, and she had won the challenge. She's safe, but like after that, she did not scramble well. She basically did the whole look at me, Mike, and. Like I didn't like it. I didn't like the way she played after she was desperate.
Ultimately, if Lindsay was in the final, Omar would question her about why she didn't play her idol.
Yeah.
First off. Secondly, right? I think that she would be able to have a good conversation about her game, but her game ends at Final Five. Her game ended at Final Five, right? She didn't do anything afterwards, right? And even before Final Five, it seemed like she was kind of in cruise control, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
After she won the do or die in Final 7.
yeah, it seemed like she was in cruise control, right? And where Marianne can at least have a couple of tribals to talk about it. Jonathan's a non-factor. Mike won one thing and really did nothing else after Final Five as well. So, like, I think it's a non-starter. She doesn't really have anything to argue in terms of she played a better game. Recency is always going to be more important when it comes to those type of live juries, right? And therefore, Marianne would still have the best case and would have won. Once she put that idol down, that was her ace of spades. She won the game. That was it.
I didn't like that moment though. Like I felt like she didn't deserve to win for that. I thought that was ridiculous. Like I had this idol and nobody knew about it. I just thought it was really silly. I thought it was you didn't even play it. Like if you had mentioned the fact that Mike played his idol on you and that was like that's different, but she kind of acted like having this idol and kept it from everybody showed she was strategic and she could keep things close to the vest and she wasn't this open book. I just thought it was a little on the nose. I'm like, okay.
I didn't perceive it as that. I perceived it as she was in no danger and she held a good portion of the cards, whereas other people had 2 cards in their hand, she had 4. Right? So she was never going to lose that hand, right? So that showed a level of strategy.
Right.
Whereas like Mike thought, oh yeah, I showed that I was loyal in that. And it's like, no, Marianne played you, right? That's the perception of that move as opposed to Marianne is so great she still has an idol. I never consider it as she just has an idol. It was she was always safe and she played Mike in that way. That's how I perceived that presentation.
Yeah, that's definitely how because we knew the whole story, but for the jury, like she didn't say that. She said basically, I had this idol and I was safe either way, one way or the other. But what she said to me was that she played Mike. I don't think she did that though. I don't think she said she played Mike. But yes, if you listen to the facts, that's what she did.
Okay, and well, at least the producers did a better job this time around to show their work, as I said before. Like
Yes.
show your work, and I can appreciate it a lot more.
Do you think Jonathan? See, like, I had Jonathan in the draft, and I was kind of pulling for him a little bit for the fact that, like, I was like, this guy, I think, he seems like a generally nice guy, but has a little bit of problem talking to women. He has a problem. He talks down.
Maybe more than a little.
More, right? But maybe that's just his life experience. Maybe he's just, used to being around men and is talking to women like they're men, and you can't do that, especially in like a game like this. And I think that I could see him watching this season and coming back and being like much better, because I do think like I don't know, I enjoyed the way he signed off. Like I thought he was a genuine person. I didn't think he was fake. I thought he was who he was, and yes, he needs some work, especially with the way he talks to women, and like that was what sunk his game, especially to Drea and Lindsay.
Didn't he
But
tell?
I
Even
do
in this
see a
episode,
player there.
he tells Lindsay, "You're being aggressive. Stop it."
I was just like, look,
Yeah.
John. You know what would have did the best for Jonathan returning again, a lot sooner. I think it might be a little bit of time. Was if he got voted out earlier. If he got voted out earlier, he would have went to Ponderosa. They would have made a whole video of him and Drea having a conversation, and him, at the beach doing some, self reflection.
Right.
The dramatic music. It would have been like the start of the Jonathan rehabilitation tour, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, This was such a great experience. I've grown as a person, not just in body, but in mind and soul. They would have had some kind of thing. And then Survivor 44, he would be back on the Goliaths team, right? Right then
He's a
and
total
there,
Goliath.
right? But like, I didn't get that closure or that resolution at the end of the season. They didn't really give him that moment, and I think
because where he goes out here, if he had gone out like almost at any other position, I think he would have.
Right.
But because he goes out here at 4 in this fire making challenge, and then he becomes the last member of the jury. He never really gets his comeuppance in a way, right? Like if he had been on that final 3, you gotta bet they would have roasted him, right?
Oh, yeah.
For not just the
and he would have fought back.
He would
have
probably would have been bad for him, So
yes, it was probably
in some ways he was spared that, but on the other hand, he never also got any. It would have been a chance at redemption. I don't think he would have been redeemed, but
no.
Ponderosa he would have been, but not
at Ponderosa. So if he had gone out at where Omar went out, I think that's probably a better place, or even the one before that. But he never does, right? Because I think people knew they could probably beat him at the end. And then he became like this decreasing challenge threat as the game went on too. Like early on, it's Jonathan's tearing through the water, and then by the end, he's
Jonathan is ripping through the water.
He's a horror movie villain, which at the beginning of the movie seems unstoppable, right? And then near the end, all of a sudden, the weak leads all of a sudden are able to hold their own against them, right? He was there to make seemingly like Romeo, Lindsay look fantastic. Like Romeo's forever going to be like Jonathan, who dominated the season. I beat him in the Final 4 challenge, right? Lindsay felt so happy that she was able to one up Jonathan, in competitions near the end, right? That's so much so that yes, it became her primary focus, right?
Too much so that it took her head out of things in other ways, right? And I think she got overconfident. Omer too, like her and Omer thought they had this all wrapped up, and then they didn't.
That was the thing with Jonathan too. Is like, I mean, he is by far the best person to be on your pre-merge tribe, but his post-merge game competition wise was not good. Like he
was really bad at puzzles.
Well, and you have to be good at puzzles on Survivor. Like it's 40% of the competitions.
His dad should have made him do more puzzles.
When I was young, my dad, he used to wake me up and he would tell my brother and I to run up a mountain and race. And whoever lost had to do it 3 more times.
And he should have said, then you have to like solve a complex jigsaw puzzle, Jonathan.
So wait, is it Bloodwater 3 with him or his brother or him and his father? That's going to be playing
all 3 of them, and they'll just be doing pull-ups.
When I was young, and I was like 3, my dad, he used to wake me up and make me do pull-ups.
The fact that he says that he was 3 is probably the best part. Like, because usually when people say when I was young, I don't know, 16, 17 or whatever, it could be any really age frame. But he clarifies and says,
he's like, I was 3. I
was 3, and I ran up a mountain when I was 3.
I ran up a mountain like 3 more times because my dad said so.
But yeah, he was not good at the puzzles. Like he gave up on the circle puzzle tonight. Just overall, like he needs to go, hang out with Boston Rob and do some puzzles or something.
He needs to get in touch with his emotional side. I think he's got some maturity to grow. But I think Jonathan could, obviously could develop. I wonder how he'll receive the feedback from this season.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have any insight into that. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of haters for Jonathan, but on the other hand, he was kind of rootable at times too, and so
I liked him from the beginning, but then there was the moments with Lindsay and Drea, and I was like, okay, not good,
No.
And the hangriness got the better of him, and that stuff cannot because he seemed nicer like at the beginning a little bit, like he was better at the merge tribe. Being on a team, I think, was more his game.
More of a team player, but as an individual, really kind of
needed a lot of work.
He did
Yeah,
a
he
lot
didn't
of
have
work.
his 18 eggs in his cheese.
But
Back home, my average meal is 18 eggs, 9 pieces of cheese, and grits.
I love egg grits. The way he said that, it's so disgusting. His
Grits.
poops must be epic.
But like at the end there, you could really see that Mike and Jonathan were like, even though Mike really tried his best to say like, I'm happy, man. I don't need the money. I'm happy for Marianne. I'm glad she won, but like it didn't feel like genuine. He was like, I can't believe I lost to Marianne. At the end here, I think he was shocked. And I think Jonathan as well. I think the both of them were kind of, and maybe that was part of what the jury kind of wanted to stick it to those two as kind of like a tandem, right?
That felt like a big thing, Dave. I think you're onto something with that narrative because it felt like, Omar and Hai and Lindsay and those players,
Andrea
really controlled this jury. And basically said, no Mike or Jonathan on my watch, And they also
Omar was down with that too,
right? And they also don't know that Erica won last season, and a girl hadn't won in a long time,
long time.
And they couldn't even tell Marianne she was the second Canadian winner, or even the first, because it wouldn't be true. So they were just like, "Congratulations to Marianne." They didn't even they couldn't even talk about her being a Canadian winner at all. Right?
They barely did. She was more of a Kenyan than she was a Canadian.
Yeah,
on the show.
She's like, I can scale those. I got those fish. I can got those tilapias like out of Kenya and scale them out.
You guys don't know how to clean fish?
Not gut them.
No, I would say
okay.
so.
I could scale them, I think, but
that's more of a John Locke thing. I'm not so good at that. So I'm more of a Jack type.
Man of science, not a man of faith.
Yeah, not so much. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, I just had a thought. So, if they were doing an All-Stars Goliath,
David versus Goliath,
or I'm trying to just think of the Goliath team. So it would be
Handsome Joe or whatever.
Yeah, Joe England, right? Joe England, yep. Ozzy.
Okay. Just the elite. I would throw Lindsay on it. I would put
Ozzy on it. I think it need to be like Lindsay for the women for sure would be on there. I think you need like the big giant. Who are the most giant men?
Gravedigger James.
Gravedigger James. Maybe. I'm trying
Denise,
to think who else.
Denise, psychologist Denise with like
on the Goliath.
Yeah, she won her season with She won a lot of challenges. It's crazy. Stephanie LaGrossa, if she was in her prime.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like if you could take them from like those eras, like and
Tom Weston would be there too.
Yeah. Who was the runner-up that season? He was pretty good too.
Yeah. The fourth place in Samoa, the one who just did a tear in the Redemption Island.
I think his name was Brett.
Right. And there's gonna be we're gonna have a tribe of all-star Davids.
All-star Davids would be what's his name? The
David that was on.
The guy who writes for Lower Decks now.
Yeah,
David
Wright. He'd be there.
David Wright. Was it the MIT major?
Oh yeah,
that David. Yeah.
France was his name. Francis? Or
no, it was. I thought it was Stephen Fishback. Of course,
Fishback.
Nick from David versus Goliath.
Nick from David versus Goliath too.
Was he on the David tribe?
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah. What's her name? Not Hannah. Cherie. Not Suri. Shireen for sure. Who else would be a David?
The Davids are tougher.
They're a little tougher because they're more underdogs and they couldn't have been dominant, but they would also to be all-star. You'd have to have. I guess underdogs who
I can see Erica.
I can almost throw Marianne in that conversation because I think Marianne is kind of an unlikely winner or not an obvious winner. I was going through this whole season with my two draft picks, Omar and Marianne, thinking that Omar was was my clutch player, and Marianne was like a backup. We'll see, and then Marianne ends up being the winner of this season. And I didn't really see it coming because I thought that her game was sloppy. She never really seemed to be focused. She was more, interested in just being on TV, and she, she wanted even in this episode, where she had that whole breakdown about how her family wasn't talking to each other, and she wanted it more than $1 million. As I look for it,
I want it more than $1 million, Jack. I want it more than $1 million.
See, yeah, that stuff didn't play for me at all. And it's not that I don't feel bad for her, but I'm like, yeah, I don't care. That has nothing to do with Survivor.
Yeah, that's how I felt too. Like when you start talking about your personal life and it's just like not really related to what's going on, I'm just like, I'm moving on.
Well, there's that whole even with the whole Drea versus Jonathan thing at the tribal, right? And how she remember you were kind of mad at her, Jeff, because she kind of stole that moment of Drea.
It was brutal,
right? And so there was all these kinds of moments where Marianne, I was just like, Marianne, I can't imagine she'll win this, because they're going to look at her as just sort of like this goofball kind of weirdo,
that's so bad. Romeo and Mike
that's
were.
the thing. Like that's the thing. She had no competition. Like the other two really sucked at explaining what they did in the game.
Romeo basically said, I don't care about winning. I won just being here. It's like, okay, I don't have to vote for you. And then Mike was just in backtrack mode. From the get-go, he was just like taking back everything he did. It's like, well, I wasn't, I had to lie. And his whole argument fell apart. She had a consistent narrative in terms of what she did, and it was just and then she started laying on the emotional syrup as well.
It's so true. Like it's a good point, because and also it's what I said before. Marianne, I think it came across as kind of like a attention seeker,
Yes.
And when
right
she
from
got
the get.
But when she got to the end, I think she dialed it down. She dialed that notch down and then basically said that was part of her strategy, and it was, and so that's why I think she got the win.
But the whole thing where she was like, "Well, let's get Omar out," and they were like, "Well, that was originally Jonathan and Mike's idea," and she was like, "Yeah, but you guys ended up voting."
Yeah,
didn't even vote,
and
for
that was a huge mistake on their part. Like if they had voted with her on that vote, then she can't take all the credrit.
Yeah,
and then
I mentioned that. Check the tapes. Tapes.
She used her extra vote, and then she got Romeo to vote with her, and so that looks great on her, and especially Omar going to the jury when he did, he can just Marianne got me. She even said that as much, right? Was it you? She's like, yeah, it was me.
And I said that Mike was making a huge mistake by basically you should have just said, yes, Marianne, let's do that, because it could have been him or it could have been Jonathan. And this season was so weird because nobody was really aligned with anybody. Yeah. Everybody was just like this free agent and was just going along in the game as free agents. It was so weird.
Voting blocks?
There was no voting blocks. It was just they were all individuals. The only pair you could really say was a pair that really voted together was Romeo and Marianne. And that was really more toward the end.
Omar and Lindsay for a while.
But that was only convenience, not really alliance. It didn't even feel like that. The fact that she didn't play an idol for him says that they weren't as close.
Right. There was a bunch of things like that. Even Jonathan and Mike didn't play his idol for him. He played it for Marianne. There was all these moments where who is really aligned with who?
And what is going on? There was a lot of times where you're just this doesn't really add up.
I don't like the 26 days. I think they need to extend the days because it's too fast. It needs to be 30 days.
What did you think of the Survivor 43 preview? Did you get any excitement out of that?
It's generic as hell.
Looks very generic.
Is it just called 43, or we're just going?
Yeah, it had no theme that I could see. It was very clear that Probst, they didn't exist yet, obviously. So he was like, "Look ahead to Survivor 43," and then it just cuts away, and you get I'm a surgeon, and this is the operating room, and then there was the woman with the multicolored hair. She kind of stood out, and then
she winning.
Yeah, well, who knows?
You can't never say that again.
Yeah, it could be anybody. There was one person with a prosthetic leg, one of those spring loaded kind of legs. And so at first I was like, is this some kind of a Paralympic season? But no,
I think it was just one individual. Would 43 have seen 41?
I might, yeah, maybe
the beginning of it, maybe.
Right, like it would probably still have COVID protocols, but probably not as strict as what they dealt with here. It'll be interesting to see if 43 does like a back to the old format where there's a studio and you reveal it here, because I guess after these two reveals, like where they revealed like the winner in the jungle, I don't know.
Do you miss the studio?
Me, I do not.
Kind of, yes. And I feel like something in the middle would be better, where I don't mind them revealing it right there, but I almost feel like the reunion show and sort of like, what did you think? And all that is better with the whole cast, which obviously they couldn't do in these two seasons. The pre-jurors weren't able to be part of that.
I don't know. In my opinion, the memories, if I played the game, I would want my memories to stay there. I wouldn't want to like go get all dressed up and go to a premiere and go to LA or whatever.
Remember what happened 6 months ago? Let's talk about your exact thoughts and commit it to record as what you thought. No, I agree. I'd rather it be done there with the jurors, but don't make it 3 hours. This should have been 2.5 max. I was like, this is 3 hours? Why? I was burned out during the end of the questions. I'm like, just let them eat pizza in peace and just like go on.
Probst is like, more champagne. Let's get going.
Jeez.
You know?
Yeah,
he was pouring it down their throats by the end of it. It felt like he's like, more pizza. Let's go.
And everyone says the pizza is awful.
Yeah, like it was like Mike
pizza
wanted
never good on an island. You know. You go to Cuba or something. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like, you know.
I bet the food in Ponderosa is actually pretty good, but the pizza is probably horrible.
Oh yeah,
this is mass produced.
Yeah, it's coming off a boat. You know,
from Fiji itself, right?
Yeah, you're not growing the wheat and pounding it down, and you know, getting the olive oil and you know, doing all that.
Well, could they have found a way to like include the pre-jurors, like the other, like we always Zach and Marianne, they were maybe going to be a great romance, guys. Like that would have happened in the old reunion show format, where it's like the winner and the first vote out, the first boot of the season. Maybe you two become a thing, and then they go on the Amazing Race together or something.
No, Marianne's at she's at the Zippers right now, with her $1 million, right? She's just there.
She's got to pay those American taxes, but she'll come away pretty well.
She's a nun in the day, but at night she's flipping dollar bills, y'all.
She's gonna be on
loonies and toonies.
Yeah,
she's gonna be on Yonge Street at the Winter Garden Festival, on the stage play doing Sister Act.
Yeah. Yes. Like I am so happy that Survivor, like even if they cast these religious people, that's fine. That it's not overly talked about Jesus and God and like they used to do it and it was nauseating. Like it's fine.
Sometimes Big Brother does it too. It's
right, and it's fine. A little, you know, a tiny, but like Omar talking about, you know, praying or that's fine, but. Like I'm so glad they've dialed it back because it was
just so. Was it is it Philippines? Which is the coach Brandon Hance, where it just became like a religious cult season.
It was a cult season, South Pacific, the Aussie season. That was brutal.
One comment here from T Delt. He's saying like if you're gonna do like the reunion show there, like or like just like they sort of like, hey, what did you think of the game? Like give the people a day after, maybe almost like let them go shower, eat, clean up, and then do it. Because I guess all those pre-jurors were sent home, right? Like they're not around still.
Right. That's a good point. The pre-jurors don't get to be there in that reunion, but you know what? The pre-jurors
because they have to pay them.
Right, and they're gone by that point.
Yeah,
all of them. I guess they are. Yeah.
Did they used to do a thing where like they sent them on a trip, or they still do that? They send them on a trip.
Well, they go to Ponderosa and then they get like a debrief, and then I believe they leave.
They go home before the
like for instance, like Zach was voted on day 3, and this went to.
Was he there for another 23 days? Or did
I don't think so. And also, people would rather go home too.
But who got voted out right before Chanel? Like the first member of the juror. It was Lydia.
It was Lydia. I thought it was Daniel.
Oh yes, Maybe she had some extra movie extras to work. She's hoping to be in the next Hunger Games movie as a background performer.
Right.
Again.
She's got to get through her body conscious issues or whatever. But yeah, like there was okay, how about this, guys? The fact that we had the three finalists were each from the three original tribes. We had the blue tribe, Ika, orange tribe, Taku, and then the green tribe, Vadi, with Romeo, Marianne, and Mike, respectively. Did you like that kind of narrative to the season?
Well, I guess so. Sure, but the orange tribe was the best tribe, and I guess their representative won, right? So,
Yeah.
Right. Well, just think Jackson. Remember Jackson, your first overall pick in our draft, guys.
Oh,
Garbage.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. I just got to take a moment to kind of just share, for a moment. Let's remember that how this draft went.
Let's see how I won.
Let's see how I won. I just want to kind of remind you, because Marianne was the 14th overall pick by me. Ultimately did well. Yeah, that was part of Marianne's little pitch at the end too. She's like, "What about the Gen Z guys or Gen Z? On the state side, she's like the people under 25, like you, Tori, like Swati. They were all getting voted out, and then here I am at the end. We're big threats us here at the end." Yeah, like Omer, I think, had Lindsay just played her idol on him, he probably would have had a really good shot at winning this tonight. I think there would have been a very different finale if he had been in the mix, but he wasn't. So,
Jonathan would have been voted out. Wait, no, it would have tied, wouldn't it? Omer and Jonathan would have been 2 each.
In that final vote, let's see, it was in the final 6 vote.
Yeah. It would have been a 2 tie, right?
Well, Romeo also got 2 votes in that, right?
Yeah, so it would have been Romeo and Jonathan.
But Marianne had 2 votes, so it was 3 votes on Omar, 2 on Romeo, 2 on Jonathan in that particular.
I know. So
tribal.
If Lindsay played her idol on Omer,
yes, then we would have had a Romeo and Jonathan tie. Yeah, and then they would have revoted between Romeo and Jonathan, and I don't know. I guess maybe Romeo gets voted out there. I don't know.
What's interesting is there's only 3 players this season that are from California: Lydia, Swati, and Romeo. I would not have. I knew Romeo was from California, but I did not know those other 2 were.
Swati I would see.
Yeah.
Right, but
Lydia doesn't seem like a California girl. She seems like a Midwestern.
Canada overrepresented, quite frankly, with Drea and Marianne and Omer.
Well, Drea's from Texas originally, but yeah, she lives in
and has for a
long
lot
time,
of her
right?
life. And is I think married to a Canadian, or
so
at
she's
least
Canadian.
Yeah,
so she's Canadian. Well, it says much. She says Canada is on there for her for sure. So, I mean, that's 3 players this season. And was there 2 last, or was only 1?
Just 1 last season.
You sure?
It was just Erica last season, right?
There was someone last season, I think, that was from Canada, but
and lives in the States.
Something like that.
There was 2 Canadians. You made mention of that
in this
last season.
I think I think there was somebody else that was also had Canadian roots or was half Canadian or something. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was only.
I'd have to go pull that up.
You made a big deal about it last year. I'm pretty sure. That was your strategy last season. Pick the Canadians too.
That was Jeff's. Jeff did it. He drafted Erica. No, I can't. I'm not. Oh no, you know who it was? Yeah, you're right. It was Shan.
Sham. Yeah, she was half Canadian,
and she had grown up partly in Toronto, but she claimed Washington D.C. as sort of her home.
Right. Sham.
So would Sham and Marianne go to the same church?
Maybe
the same church circles.
They should hang out.
Maybe so. But just to remember our draft leaderboard, guys. Where'd it go? I got my first Survivor win with Marianne.
You're not tied for first with 4 of us.
I got 3 wins. I got a Survivor win. I got a Big Brother USA win. I got a Big Brother Canada win. No Big Brother Celebrity.
You need Big Brother Celebrity for the Grand Slam. Nobody has the Grand Slam yet.
That's right. Purple Fire.
That's why I have to catch up. I've been having some bad luck in a couple of these reality shows as of late. So
it's true. Yeah, and Amanda and Jen have never won Survivor yet. So they
don't pick well.
They're bad in 0.
No, yeah.
In that,
Amanda's almost won Survivor twice. Almost won Survivor twice.
Who had Mike and Romeo tonight? Was Jane
so Mike was Daryl, of course.
I knew that one. Mike was Daryl's avatar playing.
Y'all loving yes, we love the spreadsheets here on Super Beta Brothers Podcasting. This is how we track things. Stony Baloney. Anyway, I just had to glow. Yes, but we've been doing in our 18 drafts. This is how it's all shaking out with the 8 of us. So I think it's worth noting.
I should be a 2-time Survivor champion.
You've come close, but you only won Edge of Extinction with Chris, the unlikely winner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was BS win. I mean,
and I almost won again the same way with Natalie Anderson.
Yes, you did. In Heroes, in the return.
And Jeff's got the 2 Survivor wins with Tommy and Erica.
Tommy was a total BS one. I don't even know why I picked him, and he ended up winning. That one was BS too.
Right. Well, like sometimes you just take somebody because you're like, whatever, this person, and then you get it, right?
And you get it.
Jackson, he looks solid. I think Jackson has it. Like was the second episode?
Jeff shows up. We got
first episode.
It wasn't even like he actually had to leave or didn't want to be there or anything like that. It was Jeff showed up and said, "Hey, buddy, we got
the lawyers. The lawyers are saying we got to pull you." Basically,
they should have had a recap with Jackson. It was kind of cold that they didn't mention, at all.
Yeah.
I remember Zach. I liked Zach. He was like funny, and he had a lot of like zingers and things in that first episode. And we didn't even get him back, And Marianne wanted to date him.
Right. They should have had Daniel come out looking like Sweet Chuck from Police Academy, like with like a cast in his arm.
Yeah.
He should have come out like in the Usual Suspects, and he could have been what's that Kevin Spacey character in that? Kaiser Soze or whatever.
Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, that would have been Daniel, where he just comes out. He's like, "Hello, it was all an act," or whatever. But so that I was kind of missing like just that part of the reunion and everything else that we used to get. But I hate like how polished people look at the reunion, and I think sometimes with that studio audience, like Jeff just goes out there and he finds some kid. He's like, "Who do you like?" He's like, "I like so and so."
Boston Rob can't shill his next product.
Stony Baloney's with me. I wish we got to see those contestants again. A Marianne love interest segment. Yes, Stony Baloney. He did the tweet when she won. He couldn't be getting a prenup, Marianne. He wouldn't be getting. Yeah, you didn't see this coming.
Lord.
The first boot Mary's the winner of Survivor 42. Okay, we're coming up on an hour, guys. So maybe we can probably wrap up this recap. And hey, it's just been this. I enjoyed this season for all its messiness.
Winner.
I get it. I won the draft. I get it. Wasn't it?
Regardless, if I had Marianne, Dave, would you be as happy as you are right now?
I don't know.
I don't think you would have been.
I would say, what the hell happened here?
Yeah, you'd be like, why did Marianne win? Like, you had this at the beginning. You thought Mike should have won. And I kind of felt like Marianne kind of backdoored her way into this win. And in a lot of ways, she deserves credit. But at the same time, this season was not very good strategically.
I don't like this short season. I don't.
Yeah, the short season needs to be modified. I think to 30 days. 1 month, I think is better. Even those 4 days would make a big difference, I think.
Do doubles if you need to. Just don't make it this thing where it just feels like no connection are built. It feels like people aren't as like strategically as sound as they need to be. Right? Let's just we don't need to make a big. It doesn't need to be 26. Make it 30, as you said. I can deal with 30. Do some doubles. Just do it that way, please.
And the thing is, like, when you're doing 30 days seems better because I just think like in 26 days, you're like basically 2 weeks in, and you're like, oh, I only got to make it like whatever amount of more days, like 12 more days. Whereas I feel like if you're there for like 40 days, which is what it used to be, I think alliances are a lot more likely to be like that's going to happen because you're like, well, I'm in this for the long haul, like I'm in here for a while. I might as well get to like this person, want to align with this person. So there needs to be a balance. It was too much the other way with 39 days. So I think, like do 30 days. This no alliance game, I think, is a little hard to like root for people,
And they reinforce that with the amount of advantages and idols. Like, please pare it down. Get rid of do or die. Don't like it.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Just Drea explaining everything she
rewind
had.
its history. Get rid of that. It's stupid.
The whole hourglass and
Drea had too many advantages. Like not just her, but just in general, there's too many advantages.
No amulet. No, let's go on a mountain and decide to,
right.
None of the phrase stupidness. None of that, please.
It would be much just, I think, cleaner game if we saw like just a few more days and you got to see these alliances form, because like you get to the end of the narrative and you're like, who's with who and are they really even with each other? And like why, like the votes are very construed where just people are just hoping to get through. That's why like a Romeo got through. Romeo never would have got through to the end of this game if it wasn't so quick and fast. He kind of just, it was just like, oh, let's get rid of the bigger target, because when you're thinking quick, that's what you're going to do. But when you're really thinking like more longer term, you're going to be like, no, like I can't trust this guy. I'd much rather Omar be around than
they'll shoot the hostage.
Screw them. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm hungry.
Regardless
I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat the rice.
Regardless of performance, did you like the casting at least this season?
The casting was fantastic. I cannot complain about that at all.
I liked it more than 41. I'm glad that Lindsay did end up in this season. I think that I found that 41 was just more bitchy. I don't know.
They were less likable.
Yeah, I really like Nasir, and like there was a couple like real like great players in 41, but that I thought were really likable and rootable. But like Shan and like
Ricard kind of drove the bus of the season,
and they were just kind of like, ugh, like they're strategic, but they're not necessarily like they don't have like. I preferred Marianne, even though she's messier and she's like this weirder kind of wild card of a player. Like I think I was happier to see her win. Yes, I know I'm biased because I drafted her and because she's a Canadian and I wanted to see that all kind of play out. Yeah. But at the end of the day, she seemed like a good person, sure. And like it was like kind of nice to see that all kind of come out. And like Ricard was the one who got rid of come on in guys.
Right, so, I'll never forgive.
Oh my gosh, it's still on that.
Yeah,
it's guys.
Come on in, guys.
I always rolled my eyes, not for the reason why Ricard didn't like it. I always rolled my eyes because one, they're not inside, so you don't need, and you're not like he's yelling at them like they're only like a few feet away, like. It's like they know where they're going. Like you don't need to say "come on in, guys." Like
you say "come over, all."
The worst part was how it was like Nasir's like, "You say come in on, guys," right? And then he was like, "I'm done with it, Nasir." And he's just like, "Oh,
yeah, that was the biggest and then like, no, he did it for the first time around, and then came back and Ricard, poo-pooed it or whatever.
Like 2 days later, he's like, "Actually, I thought about it for 2 days, and I don't like it." And they're like, "Oh, yeah. Well, this is my little gesture."
He's like, "Don't worry, Ricard. I didn't want to do it anyway. I was trying to toss it out there.
I was trying to get someone to tell me they didn't like it, so I would like show I'm kind of like with it, and I can change."
Someone told him like, you shouldn't say "coming in, guys," because there are girls there too. And then
you can say "come on in, guys" and gals, and invited non-binary peoples and things like that as well. Just like Data at the wedding of Riker and Troy.
You could just say like "come on down," like Price is Right.
But Bob Barker, the ghost of Bob Barker comes.
You could just he should just say something like
grilled chicken and veggies.
Over here.
Yeah,
bring in the boats.
I like that.
Bring in the boats.
Bring in the boats. I think that
You
should be
got
the new one.
meats?
If you're listening, Jeff, that's the one you should make it, right?
Another big wing.
Yeah. Jonathan's ripping through this bar. Okay, we're good. We could go on all night, guys. Just for Survivor 43, all we know is that it's going to come out in September, and that it's looking like it's going to be 3 tribes again. So 3 smaller tribes to start off the season. But how long the season will be and all that is yet to be. And it's believed that 43 and 44 will be filmed back to back as well, or were filmed back to back, and so therefore they won't.
So I think they saw 41 then, or parts of 41.
That's I think that's safe to think. Yeah. Probably not 42 though.
No, not 42.
Because they're probably there right now.
They probably
right?
no. They probably filmed it in, was it, November? Because I'm trying to think of Fiji and where it is in the world, and would it be the rainy season or?
Because the filming dates for this season 42 were May to June 2021. So this is a year ago they filmed this.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I don't know.
I think they would have done it in October or so, and then also finished earlier this year.
Good night, Stony Baloney. Yeah, and I'm with you, Mary. I wish Lindsay. Well, if Lindsay had made Final 3, she would have won. So I'm kind of.
I was really pulling for Lindsay.
I guess I was too, but I was like, it's almost like it's almost like, you want to see sort of an unexpected result, and that's why I was kind of.
No, I didn't want an unexpected result. I
pleasantly surprised, I wouldn't have been happy if Jonathan won, really, either. I think that would have been.
Jonathan was never going to win.
Well, then good, it worked out. Okay, well.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us here tonight on Super Mater Bros Podcasting. We are going to be back in September to cover Survivor 43. You should also check out our coverage of Big Brother, both Canadian and American versions. I think we got a new American cast season. What is it? Going to be Big Brother 24 coming out this summer.
Supposedly they just closed casting.
Really? Okay. So
they just closed casting.
All right, that's a little late, but they can still get it together. They got to find 16 house guests, so we'll likely be covering that. There's other shows and things we want to cover here on Super Mario Bros. Podcast. We have a backlog of things like Ozark, Marvel.
Where's the Ozark cast?
I don't know. Like it's scheduling's been tough lately, so we got to move some things along. But we're going to find some time. It's a busy month and a busy year for the Super Mater Brothers network here. Jeff's had a baby. He's getting married. We got our hockey tournaments coming back. There's a lot of things going on, So it's
look at that, Jeff. He's just blaming you.
It's pretty much
all Jeff's fault.
Babies to take care of.
Babies and life and real life. What the heck? So, but you should check out. We've covered all kinds of shows. And guess Westworld, Jeff, it's also going to be coming back.
Coming back. Westworld.
Yeah, you can see the look on his face. He was like, "I'm so excited for Westworld."
I don't know if I am.
Maybe we can just cover that whole season.
The show peaked season 1, and now is just on a
maybe not a week to week on Westworld. Maybe
I think that might be the best case of action for Westworld as of late.
Yeah. You know what's a show I'm loving though is Barry.
Barry. I'm really loving Better Call Saul as the other one. I've been really.
I haven't caught up on that.
Yeah, but it's almost done. So this is the last season.
Might binge right now at some point.
Yeah, worth it. I'd say pretty good. Like when you look at that, when you look at Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, sort of like this one big thing. It's like pretty freaking impressive.
Oh, it gets better. Because Breaking Bad.
I like it better than Breaking Bad, quite frankly. So
I never liked Breaking Bad. I never finished it.
I don't know if you'll like it much more if you don't like it Breaking Bad at all. So it's
Breaking Bad wasn't that great for the first 2 seasons, and then it picked up.
Yeah. So check out all our stuff. Also check out our Star Trek theme channel, Live Long and Podcast. Right now we're in the middle. We just finished season 1 of Star Trek Enterprise rewatch. We do that every Monday night. Jody Simpson, Adam Woodward, Kevin Millard, myself. So we'll be starting season 2 this Monday. As well as we're going to be bringing back our Star Trek Deep Space Nine at 9ish podcast. I think hopefully on Wednesdays, maybe replacing this night. As we got to get back to doing.
Yeah, we have some period of time where we don't have anything unless you want to do Tough as Nails. You know, I know you
No,
love
I
that
definitely,
show.
I definitely do not. So, I would, so I'm hoping we can get back to D Space 9 and 9ish and continue because we've watched up to like season 5, episode 13 of that show. And then on Thursdays, we're talking about whatever's the newest Star Trek episode that they've released, which is always something. Right now, it's Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which I'm really loving.
I saw the pilot. I saw the
Uh,
pilot.
There's 3 episodes out so far. Jeff, have you seen that show?
What show?
Strange New Worlds.
I have not watched it. No.
Jeff,
It's
Jeff, you know how I feel about things. I think you'll dig it. I think
Okay.
you will.
Classic Trek. It's classic Trek, and I think it's really good.
Okay.
So
I'm willing.
I,
Is Spock okay?
he
gets
growing
better.
on me. He's growing on me.
3 episodes in, I was watching the review and I'm like, okay, I can get behind this right now. And that's
Okay.
what the show motivated me for it to jump my queue.
All right.
Yes.
You know what? I'll give it a go.
All right, and then Star Trek Radio Theater is our other project over there in Live Long and Podcast on hiatus at the moment. We have 3 episodes out for the newest season of season 3, but we'll be coming back with a new one soon. As soon as we have a lot of events going on, guys. So, but we will be back with that, in the months and weeks to come. And Trivial Debates is our 3rd channel where we argue about movies, TV, sports, and a game show format. Looking to do one actually this weekend. I'm just trying to figure out who's going to be on it. It's either going to be Saturday or Sunday, so check it out. It will either probably have Chris or Jaemeel, probably not both, on it. So
who's hosting?
I got to figure out who's on it first, and then I can delegate a host. So, but we're just working that out. I'm a little bit behind on organizing that all this time around. Check out our friends' podcast, like Michael Chan with the Hellbound podcast and Alex Blackburn every Wednesday, talk about horror. We got my son Eamon under his alias Sam Jerka. Let's talk about fighting games. They don't talk about Mega Man, but they do talk about King of Fighters and other things. If you like fighting video games, check that one out on Spotify where you get your audio podcasts. And lastly, check out our cousin Davin's podcasts. He's got Locutors of Trek, his Star Trek theme channel. They do debate things and writers' room pitches and trivia and all kinds of great. They told me I can't even come to the trivia. I'm too good at Star Trek trivia. I'm banned, retired. I said, you better bring me up for the Tournament of Champions if someone else is going to get the belt. Plus, every Tuesday, he does X-Men, the animated series, X-Rated, with his friend Andre. They've been going through all those ones and done some great interviews over there as well. So those are all of our plugs. Thank you for being with us and checking out all of our Survivor coverage of these 13 weeks. And we bid you adieu. And let's remember what Survivor is all about.
Because that is what Survivor is about. It is about pushing yourself to your personal limit and then seeing if you got one more step.
Good night, everybody.